All right, today is April 1st, and I'm going to get right into it. The confirmation verse I have is Isaiah 50, verse 5, and it says, "The sovereign Lord has opened my ears. I have not been rebellious. I have not turned away." Then, to get straight into the stuff, I heard the word daydream. I kept seeing the word daydream just on different videos, and then ultimately I started humming a song that's called Daydream by J-Hope of BTS, and the lyrics of that song, the verse that goes with this, translates to, "So what, I get drunk until I go crazy." And then I kept seeing the word sweet and also sugar, which means, sugar makes things sweet. So a whole bunch of things that said sweet on it. And then I was drawn to figs again. And even when I went to HEB, I was looking for grapes and berries, but next to the blueberries, they had organic figs. And I'm like, oh, look at those figs. But then when I went down the snack aisle, I was like, oh, let me buy some fig Newtons, because I just couldn't stop desiring figs. And then I went to my dad's house, and it had rained, and so there's like tree stuff on the ground, but my daughter was like, "Ew, what is that?" And I think she thought it was like dog mess or something. So I looked at it and I was like, that's just bark from the tree that came off. It was flipped over, so it didn't look like bark, because the part that we normally see on a tree was facing down, so it was the inside part. It was like brown or whatever. And then there is a K-drama that I just wrapped up watching, and the king is actually a woman in disguise. But at one scene, she had to, so it was specifically a woman dressing up in sackcloth because she was mourning the death of her father. So she wasn't quite king yet, she was the prince. But the whole point is she was in sackcloth mourning. I heard the word oil when I was in prayer. I got Strong's Hebrew 56, which means to mourn, grieve, or lament. And then I was cleaning out the pantry, to reorganize, and there was one oatmeal packet that was in there, and it was a raisin date oatmeal, so particularly the word date. And then I kept seeing the word fast, like the word fast, but also like breakfast, but the part that said fast would just stick out to me, which goes along with my last message where I kept seeing water and I kept asking God, do you want me to fast? Of course, God is never against you fasting, but this went with this message that I'm giving today. I got Strong's Greek 609, which means to cut off. And then I kept noticing like seeds at the, in the plant department. I don't know if that's really what it's called, whatever, the plants, and then these little pots that you can plant seeds in. And I saw a YouTube reel of a woman or this guy was filming his mom doing like an old school way of how to plant seeds. And then in a K-drama that I watched recently, not the same one as the other one, this girl, she has these seeds and she plants them, and she basically just looks at the little pot and she said, please bloom, please, please. So she's like begging these little seeds to bloom. And then my husband has recently been watching this border patrol kind of show where it talks about the Texas borders, and it's just in and out entry, like the cartel. They're just trying to find drugs or whatever in cars. But also yesterday I was watching, and I seemed to be so interested in this one trailer that was going through that just had this herd of cattle. So it was a cattle coming from Mexico into the States, and they had to be checked to make sure they didn't have like ticks on them that could cause a disruption with cattle here in the States if it got mixed up. So they were examining this cattle for ticks. Then I heard the song Fire by BTS, and the lyric, I'm gonna say it wrong, but he says Bultodene or Bultodene, whatever. It translates to it's on fire. And then I also smelled the way like smoke smells when you blow out a match. It was a very particular smell of like that smoke smell. And no, I wasn't using a match. I wasn't outside. I was in my house and no one would smell this. But I even asked my husband, I'm like, what, do you smell that? Which again, I've explained what a seer is, and you use all 5 senses. Sometimes I just hear a sound in there. I have this old message where I heard a sound of something and I was like, drop in a bucket. Like it sounded like someone dropped something in a bucket, and that actually went with the message. So scent is a thing, so I can smell it. I smelled smoke, but whatever. You guys get what I'm saying. And then I kept being led to like the 4th of July and hot dogs, but it just was a scene from Legally Blonde where this lady looks at Reese Witherspoon and she says, "You look like the 4th of July, makes me want a hot dog real bad." That's what she says in the show. But when you think about 4th of July, you think about fireworks. So I'm going to get into a dream that I had. And in this dream, it was nighttime. And me and my husband were going for a walk. And up ahead in a distance, I could see this huge crowd of people standing there. And I was like, and they were all looking up. And I said, what are they doing over there? My husband's like, I don't know, maybe they're waiting for some fireworks. Hence the 4th of July thing. I mean, everyone was standing there in this field and they were just looking straight up. And so when we get closer to them, I kind of walk into the crowd, but when I look up, I said crickets, but crickets and locusts look kind of the same in my dream. They were just suspended in the air, like they were frozen in time just above everyone's head, like maybe 10 feet up, maybe a little bit less, enough that I could see what they were, and we were all just waiting for these to drop. So they were hovering over us, not moving yet, but they were about to be released, and that's what everyone was looking at, waiting for these locusts. And then I also had another dream where it was like a lab, but what was being created in the lab was like crickets or locusts and cockroaches with no legs. And we know that those fly, so these crickets and roaches in this lab had no legs, so they would be forced to continually fly. So I don't know what that means, but I'm giving it with this message because it goes. And now I'm going to get a quick drink of water and I'm going to read the scripture. I have Joel chapter 1. I'm going to start at verse 2. Hear this, you elders. Listen, all you inhabitants of the land. Has anything like this ever happened in your days, or in the days of your ancestors? Tell your children about it, and let your children tell their children, and their children the next generation. What the devouring locust has left, the swarming locust has eaten. What the swarming locust has left, the young locust has eaten, and what the young locust has left, and the destroying locust has eaten. Wake up, you drunkards, and weep, wail, all you wine drinkers, because of the sweet wine, for it has been taken from your mouth. For a nation has invaded my land, powerful and without number. Its teeth are the teeth of a lion, and it has the fangs of a lioness. It has devastated my grapevine and splintered my fig tree. It has stripped off its bark and thrown it away. Its branches have turned white. Grieve like a young woman dressed in sackcloth. So that show where the woman was dressed in sackcloth. Mourning for your husband and her youth. Grain and drink offerings have been cut off from the house of the Lord. The priests who are ministers of the Lord mourn. The fields are destroyed, the land grieves. Indeed, the grain is destroyed, the new wine is dried up, and the fresh oil fails. Be ashamed, you farmers, wail, you vine dressers, over the wheat and the barley, because the harvest of the field has perished. The grapevine is dried up, and the fig tree is withered, the pomegranate, the date palm, and the apple, all of the trees of the orchard have withered. Indeed, human joy has dried up. Does it... I don't know why I said that. Y'all, sorry again. Me and my stuttering or my stammering, I can't help it. I'm at verse 13. Dress in sackcloth and lament, you priests. Wail, you ministers of the altar. Come and spend the night in sackcloth, you ministers of my God, because grain and drink offerings are withheld from the house of your God. Announce a sacred fast. Proclaim an assembly. Gather the elders and all the residents of the land at the house of the Lord your God, and cry out to the Lord. Woe because of that day, for the day of the Lord is near, and will come as devastation from the Almighty. Why did I say it like that? I don't know. From the Almighty. Hasn't the food been cut off before our eyes, joy and gladness from our house of our God? The seeds lie shriveled in their casings, the storehouses are in ruin, and the granaries are broken down, because the grain has withered away. How the animals groan. The herds of the cattle wander in confusion, since they have no pasture. Even the flocks of sheep and goats suffer punishment. I call to you, Lord, for fire has consumed the pastures of the wilderness. The flames have devoured all the trees of the orchard. Even the wild animals cry out to you, for the riverbeds are dried up, and the fire has consumed the pastures of the wilderness. So that is the message, all the dreams and the scripture that goes with it. I tried to keep this one short, and I'm sorry that I just could not read really good today, but the message is out there. That's all that matters. Oh, and also I kept getting the word encourage over and over, and I got that from this Bible because it says encourage on there, like a play off encourage, and this is the Christian Standard Bible, if you were wondering what version I was reading from. All right, guys, find the light, or always find the light. I'll see you next time. Bye.